level, but it's up to you to go out and hustle, or your agent to go and hustle those endorsement deals, right? Whoever's the hot commodity, right? You're going to go get the bigger deals, right? And so therefore, there's the salary difference. But that's the one way to make everything sort of fair for the players in the league, so there's no team animosity. And let's face it, if your agent's hustling better than my agent, for example, then you ought to reap the benefit from it. Isn't that fair?
That sounds socialist to me.
No, it's not.
I mean, you're saying that all the players should, so all the players should make the same amount of money?
No, it's not what I'm saying. For your position, let's just say wide receivers have X dollars, quarterbacks get Y dollars.
Kind of like the franchise tag. You're taking an average.
Right,
okay.
right. And all we're trying to do is create, we're trying to kill the notion of animosity on the team between the players, right? And I say you go out and make as much money as you can, but we have a benchmark that we have to work within, right? And see, a lot of basketball players use this, hockey players use it, and so forth, right? So they'll go make, I mean, look at the money that James makes from his endorsement deals, right? He makes some crazy money from that. Bryant did the same thing. Jordan did the same thing, right? So you can only be paid a certain amount, and everything else over and above you got to get on your own. That's all I'm saying. This way, look, there's a cap here that you can be paid, but I think that cap needs to be raised for that particular position across the league. But go make your money outside, so this way there's harmony on the team. You see what I'm going with?
I do, but I mean, do you think it's really causing that much of an issue right now? Do you think that
Yes.
the players on New Orleans Saints are having animosity toward Drew Brees because he's making so much money? Or do they look at Drew Brees and say, this is the guy who's going to take us to a Super Bowl. I don't care how much money he makes, because if he's doing well, then everybody else is doing good.
I'm thinking more in the lines of the wide receivers and the linesmen and the running backs and the linebackers, where there's multiple positions, your cornerbacks, etc., the rest of your DBs. There needs to be some kind of benchmark for that. And this way, it keeps those people on a plane. It's like, look, you go make your money elsewhere on top of your salary, but this way the locker room has some community and some harmony, and there's no ill feelings. That's all I'm saying, Kev. Anyway, we're out of time here on The Circus. We're going to be back tomorrow, hopefully with a special guest in the studio. If not, we'll see you then without the guests and more mayhem. Folks, have a great day, and we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. So long, everyone. Attention business owners.
Are you a small business owner or pursuing the dream of starting your own company?
Attention business owners. You and your customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935, or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
It's time for Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews, a show about successful aging, helpful services, and simplifying the complicated with practical solutions. And now, here's your host, Barbara Matthews.
Welcome to Age of Being 2020, a program dedicated to solving the challenges of senior care and aging. I'm Barbara Matthews, your host, gerontologist, elder care advocate, and author of the book, Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness. You can learn more about me at iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, and KCAAradio.com's webpage for Barbara Matthews. You can phone me at 951-428-4099. Right here on NBC News Radio Network each week, we'll introduce a helpful service, explain practical options, and simplify the complicated, all to help you and your family find good care, affordable care, to put your children's minds at peace knowing you are okay, and to help you live your best life. Every 65 seconds, someone in the United States develops Alzheimer's disease, with symptoms like memory loss, confusion, personality changes. But there are some simple, practical, enjoyable things we can do to minimize the likelihood of developing the disease. The month of June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. The Alzheimer's Association, the go-to organization for research on the brain and dementia, has put together a list of 10 simple practices that seem to minimize the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease. This is new, and it's wonderful to hear. Susan Howland, Programs Director of this wonderful organization, is here to explain these 10 ways to show love to your brain. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you very much.
I'm so glad you're here. I want to get right into this. So, how was this list created, this 10 ways to love your brain?
Well, right now we still don't know what causes Alzheimer's disease, but we are beginning to find a lot of research that suggests that we can take very simple steps to improve our memory and thinking, as well as maybe reduce the likelihood of developing other diseases in the future. So it's a accumulation of different types of research that's going on right now.
Perfect. Well, let's get started on the list. Just go through them, 1 through 10. What's number 1?
Where would you like to start? How about hit the books?
Okay.
So we know that formal education actually helps reduce the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. And we're not really sure why. Maybe it's individuals are building some type of cognitive reserve that allows this, or maybe they're making more neuron connections in the brain. So we want people to continue learning, take a class, go to a community college, pick up a musical instrument. Again, something that people will enjoy doing.
Now, does the subject matter, do I need to be doing something with science or math or cooking, or you did mention a musical instrument?
I would say do anything that you enjoy. If you do not like it, you're not going to stick with it. So if you have always wanted to learn a musical instrument, this might be that time to do so. If you hate music, you might want to go take a science class or learn how to crochet. So you need to make sure you do what you enjoy doing.
But is this a continuation of something I've always been doing, or is this learning something new?
It's usually something new.
Okay.
The brain, like our muscles, craves something new. So if I were to do curls on my bicep every day for 10 years, my body would not benefit the same way. Same is true with our brain. Our brain craves new things, and it allows it to create new neural pathways in the brain as well.
That's a great suggestion. And here's a wonderful opportunity in retirement to take time to learn something, a new language, maybe traveling, something you've never done before. You know, years ago I ran into an organization called OSHA, Lifelong Learning, which is offered in many communities, typically through a college, maybe a community college. A lot of senior centers or senior tracks, housing tracts, will have OSHA classes. It's a terrific way with a huge diversity of learning opportunities, if you will. In looking at their curriculum, 1 week they're looking at 18th century European history. The next session might be on taking a rhythm and blues study of early American composers and musicians. Then they're back to some Asian studies. Or religious, an in-depth look at Buddhism, for example. So it's a wonderful variety. And you're right, you can find a subject that interests you.
Absolutely.
What's
Good
number
suggestion.
2?
Butt out. If you smoke currently, see if you can stop smoking. Studies have found that smoking actually increases the risk of cognitive decline and may increase the risk of dementia. Also, just additional benefits, including lowering the risk of heart attack, stroke. So there are also some additional benefits to that. And I think a lot of people look at me and say, are you crazy? I've smoked my whole life. Why should I stop smoking now? And I think my message is it's never too late. Quitting smoking can reduce one's risk to levels that are comparable to those who have never smoked.
That's
so
wonderful.
It's never too late.
Wonderful news, never too late. About how long does it take before one would see improvement?
That I am not sure. I would think a couple of months or so as your body adjusts back.
Probably depends on the individual and what else is going on in their life in terms of other healthy pursuits of lifestyle or eating or medications, so much to affect that. But it is good to know that you can change that, to reverse that.
Absolutely.
All right, what's next?
Follow your heart. So risk factors for cardiovascular disease and stroke, such as obesity, high blood pressure, and diabetes, negatively impact somebody's memory and thinking. So every time your heart beats, 20 to 25% of that blood goes straight to your brain. So anything that reduces or restricts that blood flow to the brain isn't good. Our brain needs that oxygen-rich blood to fuel itself. There's been some really interesting studies around really aggressively controlling blood pressure. And individuals who maintain their systolic level, that top number on the blood pressure, about 120, reduced by about 19% the likelihood of developing mild cognitive impairment, which is sort of that precursor to developing Alzheimer's disease or another type of dementia.
That is one of the most concrete statistics I've ever heard about limiting one's chance for developing the disease. So 19% reduction in the likelihood of getting the disease just by controlling one's blood pressure to a normal 120 or so. Wow, that is terrific to hear.
And I think what's so exciting is that research is coming out with findings a little bit more quickly than maybe what we've seen in the past. And again, these are all very simple things that we can do or strive to do on a day-to-day basis that might, help our memory and thinking and ultimately reduce our risk.
I love that. You're right. It's so simple to do. It's practical. It makes sense to do it. It's not expensive to do it. They're all easy fixes. I love it. Okay, what's next?
How about heads up? Brain injury can actually raise the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. So not that anyone sets out to hurt their head, but we do want to make sure people are being mindful. If they ride a bicycle, wear a helmet. Every time they get in a car, put on a seatbelt. Reduce the possibility of a fall, which someone could also hit their head on that.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me talk about exercise for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, because you're talking about riding a bike, you're bringing up exercise. Does exercising, any kind of exercise, help in holding back the disease?
So this is probably where there is the most robust research in how physical activity impacts the brain. We do know that engaging in physical activity is associated with a lower risk of cognitive decline. And many researchers actually say if you had to choose one thing to do to improve brain functioning, it should be exercise. And that's partly because exercise may directly benefit brain cells by increasing the blood and oxygen flow and by reducing other factors that might increase a risk for dementia, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and cholesterol.
Is the one exercise better than another?
Usually we want you to break a sweat, but no, again, it's doing something that you enjoy, maybe teaming up with a friend so you have an accountability. It could be starting out as simply as walking. It could be biking. It could be any sort of exercise that someone finds enjoyable and is willing to commit to for the long term.
You just want to try to get the heart rate up at least a little bit to get
Yes.
more blood flowing to the brain. Okay.
Right. I heard someone ask a physician once, well, what does that mean? How do I know I'm doing moderate exercise? And the physician's response was, if you can hold a conversation while you're exercising, that's great, but you know you're moderately exercising when you aren't able to sing.
That's a great rule of thumb.
So you can go out and sing and exercise and take care of that brain.
How long or how often should one exercise?
You know, usually we suggest following the general guidelines of about 30 minutes a day, working up gradually to that threshold.
Okay. What's number 6?
You've gotten me a little off track, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
Fuel up, eat, diet.
Okay.
Diet has also received a lot of attention in recent years, and we do know what's good for the heart is going to be good for the brain. So diets that promote heart health, as well as diets that kind of control or manage high blood pressure, seem to do the best in terms of improving memory and thinking. So these would be lots of fruits and vegetables, reducing the amount of processed and foods and refined sugars. So say the Mediterranean diet would be an example.
Okay, lower in fat, fewer animal fats, more plant protein.
Exactly.
Okay.
And a lot of these, it's messaging that we've heard from American Heart Association or American Cancer, and I just think it's exciting that we now can tie some of these other benefits to our brain as well.
Well, it is. And once again, the body is this wonderful systematic organ, a series of organs. It sounds like where helping one aspect of the body is helping another aspect of the body, which is great. It would be awful to have to try to eat 2 completely different conflicting diets to save your heart or save your head.
Very true. Very true. Although it might be satisfying to eat 2 diets, I don't know.
Let me ask you about sugar, because I am so addicted. So how detrimental is eating too much sugar to one's brain?
I cannot think of a study that has necessarily tied sugar to kind of brain health and risk reduction. It's an interesting area. Most of the studies I've looked at have been focused more around kind of the Mediterranean. One of the difficult things is when you want to do kind of randomized control trials when you look at interventions. And so it's really difficult to find these kind of nuggets and tools and tips to reduce risk. It's, not as if you could put me on a McDonald's diet and put you on a Mediterranean diet and say, come back in 30 years. We're going to look at your brain then. So I feel like we're just still trying to catch up with understanding the brain and understanding the impact of things like sugar and diet and exercise on the brain.
Okay, we're going to break right now, and when we come back, I'm going to ask Susan about sleep. Did you know sleeping or lack of sleep can create dementia?
You've been listening to The Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews. We'll return right after this. Do you know an older adult who seems to have no purpose in life? Children are grown and gone, health problems limit a social life, driving has become difficult, loneliness and boredom are not unusual for older adults. One of the best gifts you can give them, or give yourself to help them, is a book titled Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness. It explains that although one's physical body is declining in old age, one's spirit is growing stronger, wiser, greater. There's new purpose and new meaning in aging. Go to Amazon.com. Look for the book titled Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness by elder care advocate and author Barbara Matthews, and order it today. That's Barbara Matthews' Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness. Need a speaker for a church group, women's group, senior group? A speaker with an uplifting message about aging? A speaker with 20 years experience in senior and health care who reveals what you need to know to protect yourself as you grow older. She's the author of the book titled Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness. Author and speaker Barbara Matthews exposes the shortcomings of our present-day system of caring for older adults and offers a better model filled with purpose and meaning. Barbara Matthews is available for presentations from half an hour to all-day events. For more information, email ageofbeing@gmail.com. That's ageofbeing@gmail.com. You can also find her book, Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness at Amazon.com. Now, more of the Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews.
Welcome back to Age of Being 2020, the program dedicated to solving the challenges of senior care and aging. For more information, call 951-428-4099. I'm Barbara Matthews, and today we're talking with Susan Howland about the brain. So, Susan, what is this about not getting enough sleep, like in sleep deprivation, insomnia, maybe sleep apnea? How does that affect the brain?
Well, the brain is really sensitive and needs sleep. You know, we know that sleeping well helps us be healthier, stronger, and more alert. But while we sleep, the brain actually can repair cell damage that's occurred during the day. So it's almost a downtime for the brain to kind of clean itself as well. It does appear as though people who do have too little sleep or too much sleep are at greater risk for other health problems, including memory and thinking problems. And I think a lot of times doctors consider like insomnia or other sleep problems is perhaps an indicator of other health issues that are going on.
Okay. What's number 8 on the list?
Number 8 is taking care of your mental health. So we spend a lot of time working on our body and making sure it looks good, but we need to spend as much time taking care of our mental health. So a lot of studies have shown a link between depression with cognitive decline. And we also know that stress also makes it harder to think clearly. So chronic stress, which I think many of your listeners can relate to,
Yes.
Can damage areas of the brain that involve thinking and memory. And so we're talking chronic, so over the long term. But it seems to interfere with memory and thinking in the short term and also maybe predispose someone a little bit to other kind of dementias and more disease processes later on.
So it helps to look for that senior lining, silver lining in any situation and pursue some stress reduction activities, it sounds like.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And one way to do that is to buddy up, to be able to stay socially engaged.
Excellent
and
point.
Work with other individuals. What it seems is though it's not really well researched why this is a benefit, but we do know that interacting and connecting with others on a social level may benefit brain and may actually delay the onset of dementia. And then those who are engaged with other people also tend to have reduced rates of mortality and disability.
Positive people, based on what we learned about depression.
Right. And and researchers aren't really sure why this exists. Is it that these individuals, their brains are more resilient, or is it traits that enable people to build and maintain friendships, kind of act as a buffer against cognitive impairment? But overall, people who interact with others tend to make healthier choices in all these different areas of their lives.
Okay. How about taking care of an animal, having a pet? Would that fall into this category?
I think so. Maybe not everybody is a people person. Again, I am not going to suggest that somebody who is more of an introvert and prefers to be alone should suddenly go out and be the life of the party. But animals provide a lot of benefit. It addresses mental health. Here is someone who loves you unconditionally. Here is a buddy, somebody who's happy to see you when you come home. Pets also involve exercise. I have to walk the dog several times a day. And while I'm out, I might interact with the neighbors. And so it benefits us on multiple levels. And that's really kind of the underlying key, is when you combine a lot of these different 10 ways to love your brain, the benefit seems to grow.
I like that. Did we cover anything? Was that 10?
I think we missed stump yourself.
Okay,
and that's
go ahead.
Basically challenging yourself, whether it's puzzles or reading a book and having a book discussion, a little bit similar to kind of the formal education piece, but do things to kind of challenge your brain. What is it we say? Train, don't drain. So don't do something that's overly taxing, but something that kind of challenges you a little bit, helps to create those new neural networks in the brain.
Okay. Susan, if listeners want to take another look at this list of activities, can they be found on the website?
Of course. Of course.
Give us that website.
ALZ as in zebra.org/10 ways.
Okay.
The number 10 ways.
www.alz.org, and one of the items on that website is the / and 10
ways.
Right, 10 ways. Okay. What other kinds of information and resources are found on your website? Because I love your website. It's so robust. I mean, you've got research, you've got support groups for people all over the Inland Empire here where they can find them, pictures of how the brain looks as the disease progresses. So what did I miss? What else is on that website?
For me, it's a little bit for everybody. So individuals who want to learn more information about, 10 ways to live your brain, you can find that information. So really kind of being proactive. For individuals who are current caregivers or currently living with dementia, there are resources around, like you said, support groups, education, other ways to kind of involve and engage in the community. We also have classes that are in person, online, and by telephone. So again, if you can't make it out, that would be great. The Alzheimer's Association is one of the leading entities in conducting research. We have research updates on the website, and we also have something called Trial Match. So I always joke, it's like an eHarmony for clinical trials. There are a lot of research studies going on, which is incredibly exciting, but we don't always have enough people participating in them. So individuals can go onto this Trial Match, fill out a questionnaire if they're, a healthy volunteer, if, they have Alzheimer's in the family, and the system will potentially link them with research sites with whatever geographic area that has been defined, and see if they would like to participate.
That is a wonderful way to support the Alzheimer's Association. I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to have you speak really quickly about, I know this month you're doing a special fundraising effort, and then anybody who's interested can go online to participate and donate online. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
So we have our fundraiser this month is called The Longest Day.
And I wanted you to mention the matching gift by the Saltzman family. I want people to know it's good to donate here in June if they can, because there is a very generous family who has agreed to match gifts up to $1 million.
Yes, and all the funds are used to support research, care and support in the community, as well as some of our advocacy efforts. So I know in conjunction with this $10 million, I also wanted to mention that we are advocating at the state level for government to create the California Department of Public Health to kind of lead a statewide implementation of this public health roadmap. So right now, we know most people don't get diagnosed early, or they don't get diagnosed at all. And so through this effort, we want to raise public knowledge with regard to brain health and engage local public health departments to fund innovative community-based interventions.
I love that. And there's a request now for $10 million special budget, and are you looking for people to support this, or is it already on Governor Newsom's desk for signing, or where do we stand with that?
So the Budget Conference Committee has approved $5 million in a one-time general fund investment, so about half of what was requested, and that will focus on early detection and diagnosis. It will target outreach to disproportionately impacted communities of color, and it will also fund initiatives in 8 county public health departments.
Oh, I hope that moves forward. That will just be so helpful because this disease is unfortunately exploding, as we've talked about before. Susan, you have been wonderful. Thank you so much for helping us understand how to keep our brains healthy. And you've given us hope. You've given me hope with these new findings of how simple lifestyle changes can really help us. I appreciate you reminding us all again of what the Alzheimer's Association does and how we can support that financially. So thank you so much for being here today. It's been wonderful. Susan Howland, Programs Director at the Alzheimer's Association.
Thank you.
Next week, we're talking to Judy Phelan from Julie Talks Money about the amazing real estate investment of turning your family home into a residential care home for seniors. Last week, you remember, we heard Jean Guarino explain 3 different options: a Golden Girls setting for baby boomers. Second was turning your parents' home into a board and care where your parents live for free and children can really inherit a very strong cash flow from that asset. And the third option was simply investing in real estate and letting professionals manage the operations. So next week, Julie Phelan will be here to give us more detail about these options relevant to right here in the Inland Empire. For much more information on the subject of dementia and also housing options for your parents and why it's so important to listen next week, go to Amazon.com and check out my book, Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness. You can find me on iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, and my webpage at kcaaradio.com. You can phone me at 951-428-4099. So join me next week for Age of Being 2020, helping you live your best life. You're listening to KCAA Radio, simulcast in both AM and FM on the NBC News Radio Network.
You've been listening to The Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews on KCAA. Join us each week as we explore successful aging, helpful services, and simplifying the complicated with practical solutions each week at this time right here on NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292 FQ Riverside, and K293 CF Moreno Valley.
This is InfoTrack, the weekly show with information you should know. Here's what's happening on this week's show.
What's a better way to measure cardiovascular health than the standard treadmill test? The answer may be as simple as seeing how many push-ups you can do.
It's pretty fascinating. The test that took less than 2 minutes requires no technology.